You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting The Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
Today, we're going to learn more about Christmas in other cultures, other parts of the world. We've been learning about Christmas in various parts of the world. Today, we head to the continent of Africa, particularly heading to Kenya. Our friend there is Shara Osiro. She serves as the Regional Shared Ministries Manager for the LCMS in Eastern and Southern Africa. Shara, welcome to the Coffee Hour.
Great. Thanks for having me.
I am looking forward to learning about your work there and what the Lord has given you to do Eastern and Southern Africa and residing in Kenya. Tell us about the region and the communities where you serve today.
So my work is all across the continent, so the entire region, so for Africa region. As a regional shared ministries manager, I manage or support shared resources across the region. I work with a team of 4 people. So that can vary from things like volunteer coordinator, communications, our retreats and special events, new missionary orientation, onboarding and offboarding, our hymnal projects, our work with CPH, Concordia Publishing House, and a variety of other things. So I don't do this work by myself. As I said, I have a team of 4 that help to coordinate some of these shared ministry resources.
That is a long list of things under a somewhat short job title. What does that look like for you then as you work through kind of day to day? I'm sure it's maybe something different every day.
Yeah, it could be. The last probably month or so has been more on the volunteer coordination side. Our former volunteer coordinator retired. So I'm picking up that hat again with other members of my team. So coordinating upcoming short-term teams and volunteers for the region. I can be in another country attending an event. Earlier this year, I had the opportunity to go to Ethiopia a couple times for conferences. It can be serving alongside a team, a short-term team. I did that back in May. I went to Sierra Leone with one of my colleagues there. But also I was twofold. I also got to meet the church leaders there. I also serve on our leadership team. So I work very closely with our regional business manager and our regional director as well.
So it sounds like you're involved in a lot of teamwork in what you do. One of the things you mentioned that caught my attention earlier is Hymnal Project. Tell me more about the Hymnal Project. I know we don't have a whole episode for it today, but I want to know a little bit more about a Hymnal Project going on in your region.
Yes. So maybe I said that maybe not in the best construction, for lack of better words, but our cantor, Phil Magnus, works in the French-speaking countries, and he has been doing some work on a French hymnal. And so I am learning more about that and helping to support that there. I think he's working with some of our other missionaries in developing that work and with Lutheran Heritage Foundation for some of the translation in that work. So that's kind of the focus of that hymnal work right now.
That's very exciting. We're familiar with Phil Magnus's work as well, doing some great stuff, teaching people the liturgy and the song in the church. Really, really cool stuff. Who are some of the people, you mentioning your team, who are some of those people on your team, the people that you get to work with on a daily or monthly basis?
Stephanie Schulte, and she is in the Republic of Congo. Megan Mantai, she will be relocating here to Kenya. And Britt Odemba, and she's here in Kenya.
Cool. What do you get to do with those? I think we've talked with I don't know if we've talked with Britt recently.
No,
we've
I don't think so.
We've talked with Megan before. What are the ways that you get to interact with your teammates and your partners in ministry there and serve together? What are some of the projects you're working on, and especially helping your new teammate relocate to Kenya?
Yes. Well, Britt works a lot with Project 24. So our child and Christ Care for Children Kenya, so the child sponsorship program. As part of Project 24, she does a lot of the sponsorship, and she works alongside Jennifer Hummel there at the International Center. And so I often will use my communication role. And when I work with her, we'll do visits to the sites to see the kids. I will take photos of the kids for her sponsors and for new packets for the children, videos and things like that. And just a support role, getting to meet the site managers and the staff at the project sites, and also just getting to know the children. Is my work with Stephanie Schulte. So she is the nurse in our region, and she leads our community health evangelism or CHE programs and teams and volunteers. So we talk a lot about the coordination there. Again, she also hosts Mercy Medical Team. So I serve with her in May. I work with Megan Manti. She's the regional coordinator for development and care. So she leads our member care team. She helps to put together our retreats and continuing education programs. And she's working closely now with the different church partners on their continuing education programs.
So you work a lot with people from LCMS Office of International Mission, a lot of teamwork with those people. How much do you get to interact with others on the ground as you're traveling to different countries in Africa? How, do you get to build relationships with anyone else while you're on the field?
As far as the local church partners, yes. Whenever I travel, I get to have time with the local church leaders. I've had the opportunity to meet many of them throughout the years of my service in different capacities and different roles that I've had. So I have good relationships with many. And for those that I have not met yet, looking forward to meeting those church leaders. Here in Kenya, we work alongside the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Kenya. This is the Lutheran Church partner here in Kenya. So I know the church leaders really well and many of the pastors. I'm going to interact with them again on many occasions, visits to the seminary, visits to the Project 24 sites, work with teams and volunteers. I've interacted with the church leaders in Uganda, in Ethiopia. I often get to meet them, even if I'm just visiting fellow missionaries. So it's always good to greet and to meet church leaders when you're visiting their country. So I have a good relationship, and it's just important to strengthen those relationships and nurture as we continue to work.
Shara, how long have you been serving in this region?
I have been in the Africa region now for 13 years.
That's quite a milestone. That's pretty significant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to gather it feels like home now.
Yes. My first 3 years was in South Africa, and then I moved to Kenya. But even then, I call South Africa home, and I still have fond memories of my life there. But yeah, Kenya definitely is. When I'm in the United States and I say I'm going home, I say I'm going to Kenya, my other home. And then when I'm in Kenya and I say I'm going home, I'm going to my other home, the United States. So I truly can say that I call those two places home and truly meet.
Mm-hmm. You have had, I'm sure in that time, a lot to learn about the culture, the people, and interacting with the community and just being fully engaged with the community and getting to know the people you serve. And I know that that has grown in certain ways. We want to learn more about that. We're going to do that in just a little bit. We're going to learn more about how you've connected with the community in a very, very special way. So we'll do that in just a moment. We're going to take a break here on the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
At Concordia University, Wisconsin, we believe you were created for a reason: to use your God-given gifts to help others, to live a life of self-sacrifice in a me-first world, to live a life that's uncommon. Whether you're taking one of 50-plus online programs or learning with us in person on the shores of Lake Michigan, you'll be equipped to make an uncommon impact. Learn more at cuw.edu. Concordia University, Wisconsin. Live uncommon.
Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
We are visiting with our friend Shara Osiro in Kenya today. She serves the Lord as a regional shared ministries manager for LCMS Africa region. Also joining Shara now, Michael and her husband, Michael. So looking forward to learning more about the Osiro family. So tell us, Well, Shara, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you met Michael?
Yeah, Michael and I actually met here in Kenya. We had a mutual acquaintance that used us, and he called to say hi, and we got to talking, and we met probably about 2 weeks later, and had a really good conversation, and continued that conversation, and decided to get to know each other a little bit better, and just grew in our relationship, and in God's perfect timing, we were
Connected.
we were married. So
Now, how long have you been married then?
5 years. We got married in 2017.
Very nice. So, Michael, what has that been like in this relationship with Shara and all of the work that she does? What is that like for you to watch her do all this work on the ground with all this mission work?
I'd say it's been a journey for me, especially in serving the Lord. I grew up in a Christian as a family. So getting connected to Shara was really a blessing for me because I've learned so much, and my spiritual foundation has also been very, very strong. And we're progressing very, very well. I thank God for that.
So one of the things that we'd like to talk about today is what makes Christmas unique in Kenya. What is Christmas in Kenya like? So, Michael, share with us, what are some of the traditions that have been important to you growing up in a Christian family? What are some of the traditions that happen in the church in Kenya?
I'd say it's more or less the same because there's a lot of traveling up country in Kenya whereby families tend to go to the rural homes just to be together and celebrate Christmas. And just
what does that look like? Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. I know we have a lot of our traditions in America that are very, we gather around the tree, we open presents, we eat a lot of food, which I know we'll get to in a minute. But what are some of those traditions when you're with your family? Anything special that happens when you're gathered together?
No, well, the only difference is that here we tend to, slaughter animals, like slaughter cows, goats, and just have a feast, the traditional African feast whereby people just sit together and in an open space and just, there's a lot of beef roasting, a lot of beef stewing, and just celebrating. So that's mostly happens in different homes, and it's more or less the same everywhere you go in these parts of the world.
Shara, what's it been like for you learning about some of the traditions and customs of Christmas in Kenya? What have been some of the key ones that have really been a highlight for you?
As Michael said, just the gathering of family together, whereas in the States we have big trees and presents. And even here in our home, we follow some of the same things. We have a tree and presents and things like that, especially here in Nairobi. But again, as Michael said, most Kenyans will go to their ancestral home, we say up country. I had the occasion early in my time here in Kenya, actually before I met Michael, and I went with a friend. And as he said, a beef from the cow or goat meat is something that's readily eaten. The family and friends gather together. The women are together in the kitchen, cooking and talking and just having a good time. The kids are probably outside playing. The men are around the grill. They're the ones probably grilling the meat and doing some of those things together. So it's a really fun time. You get to taste, meat as it's cooking. Meat as it's being stewed. Chapati is kind of like a tortilla, but that's a favorite here in Kenya as watching women. So it's a lot of sitting together, being together, talking together, laughing together. It's very communal in that way.
That sounds really wonderful. I would love to sit around while beef is roasting and just eat it all day. That sounds really great, quite honestly. I know in America we have a lot of like Christmas cookie, baked sweet tradition kind of stuff. Is there any of that in Kenya as well, or is it mostly roasted meats?
Well, now that seems to be taking shape out here, whereby you find that like Kenya has a lot of foreigners, a lot of like patriots. We are embracing them because like Shara and I, this is like an American married to a Kenyan. So there's also that elsewhere, and people, communities or families are embracing various cultures, including, sharing of cookies, opening of presents, and so it's all now just getting all dynamic.
In addition to the meat and the bread. Oh boy, now we're all hungry talking about this. Anything else in terms of food that makes that is significant at this time of year?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, of course, beef has its accompaniments. So there's one of our staple food is ugali, which is basically corn flour pounded into, shara.
I'd say it's kind of maybe like grits, but very stiff. So it's a corn flour, and you would boil water, and then you would pour the flour in. And as Michael said, you kind of pound it and stir it and pound it and stir it. It forms into a ball, depending on the size of the people that you need to feed. And it can be cut into pieces and is eaten with the hand. And as he says, it's an accompaniment to beef or stew or things like that. That is a Kenyan staple. Kenyans eat it, I would say, every day. Things like green vegetables, like a spinach or kale that's like boiled and cooked down with maybe tomatoes and onions, a little bit of oil. You can put maybe coconut milk and kind of have a cream spinach. And then there's a local version of that. It's called sukuma wiki. That's also an accompaniment with the ugali with beef. Maybe cabbage as well. That can be fried with, again, some oil and tomatoes, onions as well. Apati, as I mentioned before,
Good old chapati. That's all-time favorite.
It's probably a must as well, too. So it's, again, like a dough, and then you roll it in a little balls, almost like how you make a tortilla, but the consistency is slightly different as well. Some people can put shaved or grated carrots within the dough. Some people put a little bit of sugar, but I mean, it's hot off the steel griddle that it's kind of fried on. Let's see, maybe beans, maybe red beans or stewed lentils. Those go really well with chapati or rice. Rice as well can be an accompaniment, but I would venture to say more so ugali, chapati, and your greens, your sukuma wiki. Yeah.
I am very hungry right now. That all sounds so good. Now, as far as working with a church partner and church traditions, is there anything special that happens in the church for Christmas Day, Christmas Eve?
I would say, I'm Michael, it's very, very similar to the US. Like, we go to the Lutheran church in Nairobi, so it's the main cathedral, and we would go on Christmas Day, so they have a Christmas service. I'm not sure if they do a New Year's Eve. They definitely have a Christmas Day service. They do have Advent services as well, leading up to Christmas service. I think even upcountry, most often they would have a Christmas Day service. I know my colleagues in other countries in East Africa or even across the region will attend church on Christmas Day.
Here in the States, I think like a Christmas Eve, like a midnight Christmas Eve service is pretty typical as well. Anything like that?
Possibly in some places. I'm probably more in the bigger cities just because upcountry, as it's electricity can go. So I would venture to say more in your largest, in the bigger cities, maybe here in Nairobi and some of the other largest cities here across the country.
But then again, I'll also add that it's quite similar to, the order of services in the States, whereby there's Christmas Eve, and then there's a Christmas service, and then there is a New Year Eve, and then there's a New Year service, So it's more or less the same across all divided in Kenya.
Mm-hmm. Now, here in the States, especially in Missouri, the St. Louis area, we're anticipating a cold Christmas. What's the climate like this time of year for you as you prepare for Christmas?
It is a very warm time of the year. I think it was about 80 degrees today. So it's warm. It's a warmer time of year. I think I would say it's our summertime here in this hemisphere. So we are definitely don't wear heavy coats or anything like that. We can have little pockets of rain. Overall, it's very warm this time of year for us. And in some places, I remember when I lived in South Africa, it's the time of year that families would go to the beach. People, for a holiday, they would pack up and head to the beach. And that was a thing to do because it was summertime in essence, as we think about it here in the Southern Hemisphere. So, and families here as well in Kenya would take vacations on the coast. Families will take vacation and go on safari and go to different parks and see the animals this time of year as well.
Christmas safari sounds like a tradition I want to try for sure. I know that in the Southern Hemisphere, it's beach Christmas, and that kind of has a disconnect in my brain being a cradle Midwesterner. Was that a transition for you, Shara, coming from the States to Africa? Was that a transition for you getting used to a warmer Christmas, or was that something you were used to here too?
Well, I lived in Arizona before I moved. And so Arizona doesn't get as cold as the rest of the United States. I mean, comparatively here, maybe to Kenya or even some parts of South Africa. So it was, I think, during the time of year. So June, July, August are the cooler, or what we would call the cold months. So again, and I think I went to South Africa in September-ish. It was a little bit cold. So just kind of getting adjusted to the weather, the different times of year was a little bit, but I'm very used to it now. So
How can we follow the work that the Lord has given you in Africa region and your partners in ministry there as well?
Well, our Africa region does have a Facebook page, so you can follow us on the LCMS Africa Facebook page. You can also find out about the work that we are doing in our region on the international, that LCMS website. So we often will post stories of different events and different things happening in the region. And for the Osiros, on our LCMS missionary page, lcms.org/Osiro, you can find more information about some of the work that we do there.
Very good. And we'll include that link with the program notes today. Our guests, Shara and Michael Osiro. Thanks so much for being our guests on the Coffee Hour. Very blessed Christmas to you.
And the same to you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit kfuo.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@kfuo.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.